I'm excited, as you can see, and I'm happy to have a sister that has a phenomenal book out titled, I get it right now, Children of the Most High, Giving Birth to a God, and the Signs of Child Rearing by Sister Fudia Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Fudia. Are you there, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Well, alaikum salam, brother. Thank you again so much for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity to share a little bit about my book with everyone. Thank you so much for having me on.
Praise be to Allah. And she is no stranger to the show. We have Sister Amina Haq on the line. Sister Amina, are you there, sister?
Yes, sir, I am. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me, and I am honored to be in your all's presence.
Praise be to Allah. And our other distinguished guest, Sister Miriam Muhammad. Are you there, sister?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks
Wait,
for me on.
I'm good. Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Well, let's get into it, sisters. Let's start off with the author, Sister Fudia. Give us a little background about yourself, sister. Let the audience know who you are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Well, I'm just your sister, Sister Fudia Muhammad. I've been a registered member of the Nation of Islam now for 24 years. Praise be to Allah. I've been married to my husband, Student Minister Robert L. Muhammad, for now 22 years. And Allah has blessed us with four wonderful children. I am an educator by profession, but really by nature. That's just what I love to do.
Yes.
I formerly taught in the public charter school system. I was also a charter school elementary principal. And right now, I'm still educating our young brothers and sisters at Muhammad Mosque number 64 during our Sunday school, which used to be a Saturday school, but for venue or facility reasons, it's now on Sundays. But I write a weekly column that I've been doing now for 2 years on brotherjesseblog.com called Children of the Most High. And so that gave rise to this book, which really was a thought in my mind 20 years ago. And I really put it together then, but put it to the side and jumped back on it when I started doing the column with Brother Jesse. So I'm excited to be on. And that's just a little bit about me. I'm in Austin, Texas. And I'm excited to share more about the book.
Yes, ma'am. We look forward to it. And let's talk about our other guest, Sister Amina. Assalamu alaikum, sister. Give the listener audience a little background about yourself, sister.
Thank you, sir. I am Sister Amina Haq. I am the mother of a 5-year-old girl, Najma, and my son Ali is 6. My husband and I, we nickname each other Abraham and Sarah. We've been married now for 25 years.
Yes.
That is our joke with one another. We hail from the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is going to be, if Allah pleases, December 14th will be my 30th year as a registered member of the Nation of Islam. And again, I'm really honored to be with Sister Fudia, Sister Mariam, and yourself.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Mariam, you give a little background about yourself before we get started, dear sister?
Sure. I was born in the nation.
Yes, ma'am.
I have been married 21 years. My husband and I have 5 children. I have an organization called Heal Thy Life where we deal with the healing of women and girls. We mentor many girls. We do yearly retreats. I'm also the author of the book, Why I Am Enough. I'm currently working on my second book. And that's about it in a nutshell so far.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Well, Sister Fudia, let's get into it. And you pretty much started off a little bit in reference to your book. What inspired you to write this book?
Yes, sir. I was a brand new believer in the Nation of Islam in the mid 1990s, and I heard for the first time in the mid 1990s the lecture from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, How to Give Birth to a God. He did the lecture in 1987, but my first time hearing it was in the mid 90s as a new believer, and it just blew my mind. I had no idea that this type of information, knowledge was out there, was available. And when you hear the minister in that lecture, you hear the passion that he speaks, and he's so full, he can't even get it all out. But the minister mentioned in that How to Give Birth to a God lecture series that he had been studying that subject for 15 years before delivering it. And so he just so wisely put together scripture and history, biology, psychology, and even metaphysics. And he coupled that with his wise understanding of the woman and her direct connection to God, and showed us how we really can produce what we choose from our thoughts, from our desires. And so I just thought that was phenomenal. And I wanted a book like, I wanted some type of tool, because that broadened me out into child rearing in general. And as a new believer, you just want to know, I wasn't married yet at the time, but you start thinking about your future and what we're supposed to do and not supposed to do. And there really wasn't anything in an easy, accessible form. So I started the book back then. After I had my second child, I started the book. But, life happens. You put things to the side, and I just kind of left it alone for a while. But it's always been a passion of mine. The believers in Austin know I've been on this subject since the beginning, but really those who are outside of the city of Austin were just getting to know about my passion for the subject of how to give birth to a God, and really the science of child rearing in general beyond the birth process over these last 2 years with the column. So this is not a new passion of mine, but I've been able to put it in a form that I can share now with everyone.
Praise be to Allah. Now, in your book, sister, now some people may be curious. For the listener audience, what exactly do you mean when you say you're giving birth to a God? Because some people might find that a little odd for a title. So maybe you could break it down
That's right.
to that title.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. A lot of people, when they hear that, and particularly, to be honest with you, it's a lot of our Christian brothers and sisters, which I understand. When they hear that title, they are, what do you mean, a God? And so the first thing I always start with is letting them know that what I do not mean. And we're not talking about, of course, giving birth to the supreme being, because he exists already. We're not talking about giving birth to the creator of the heavens and the earth. So when we're talking about giving birth to a God, we're talking about a child that reflects the essence of Allah, a righteous child. So we're talking about a child that's born with the potential to reach their God capacity, meaning force and power. And a God is physical, spiritual, mental, all of that. You're operating at the highest form. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that the woman is a co-creator and a co-operator with God. And so from her very thought, he talks about two wombs, and how we have the physical womb and we have the mind, the mental womb. But from her thought, she's creating the brain of the child. And so we can make that child born with righteous inclinations or with unrighteous or wicked or evil inclinations. And so when he talks about giving birth to a God, we're talking about giving birth to someone who can really control their own environment and can know their purpose in life at a very, very early age and be a master of any endeavor they take on. So that's what we mean by giving birth to a God. That's the short version.
Yes, there. Praise be to Allah. And now, when you speak about that, dear sister, and what, in your opinion, what's the difference between child rearing and just raising a child?
Well, in my opinion, I think at this point, we have to be clear, and we have to boldly declare to everyone that God visited America. There are a lot of books out there, thousands probably, that deal with child rearing and parenting. But when we're talking about rearing our children, in this sense, we're talking about rearing our children in the manner that God prescribed for us. For me, there's no stronger witness, in my opinion, that a Savior visited the black man and woman in America than the sisters in the Nation of Islam. And so we really can't be shy anymore about sharing with the world what these teachings can actually do. And so if 75% of the work is with the woman, well, we look at the 7 training units that the Savior gave to the woman in Islam, and one of them is how to rear our children. And so what we're saying is God has given us a science, a formula on how to rear our children that goes beyond some of the things that you're going to read in these books, because it begins preconception. So science is something, you're going to the root, you're going to the beginning. So when we deal with how to give birth to a God or the science of child rearing, we start, as the minister said, preparation for motherhood and fatherhood begins as a child. So we start teaching our children when they are young to start cleaning up their bodies, cleaning up their minds and their actions so they can prepare to one day give birth to a God. So child rearing starts before conception, and it moves on in the womb. And so we're starting there, and we're not waiting until our children are physically in our hands to start rearing them. We start rearing them while they're in the womb.
Praise be to Allah. Wow. That's you a lot of key points there, sister. And I want to move on, Sister Amina. Now, our sister beautifully articulated a lot of the things that the teachings teach us in reference to raising our children and giving birth to a God. As a mother, and I'm going to go to Sister Miriam as well, as a mother, how beneficial are the things that Sister Lydia just mentioned that we should be teaching our children, or have that concept as far as raising our children?
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for sharing, sister. And she is 100% on point. Everything she said is vital to life, like air, like water, necessities. I will say, on behalf of parents who did not physically give birth, her words still bore witness to those of us who are adoptive parents. Before you bring a child into the womb of your mind and the womb of your family, your mind must be prepared. Your body must be prepared in order for you, as a scientist, to be able to turn back time, to repair, to heal, to mend, and move forward. So in addition to what my sister said, for those sisters out there who are infertile, and those sisters whose wombs are barren in that, I'm talking about the physical womb, like a car that doesn't have engine parts, but you still have a vehicle, and the vehicle is your mind. So it's very vital, as Sister said, because it's important. It was very important. Here's what I know is so spiritual for my husband and I. Allah prepared us. We weren't ready to produce the type of children that Allah wanted to produce until 6 years ago when Ali came home to us at 5 months. We weren't ready to raise a girl till 7 months after we brought him home. Now, I didn't think I was ready. I'm going to tell you, in my mind, I was prepared to continue to foster and let people spend a night, weekends, kind of like look for people, and it's okay, you can come stay with me for a little while. That is what I thought. What I didn't know that Allah was preparing my husband's mind and heart, my heart, mind, in our home, in our life, and a community, the type of community that would create the type of children that we have. And I'm going to say that it is time, where Sister Fudia's book is a basis of Muhammad University. Here, I'm talking about outside of Chicago and Detroit, and I'm talking about right now in our little small towns. I could look at her book and start my own school. Why? Because the children that I have, they cannot contain them in the school they are in.
That's right.
So I will say that based on the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, given to him by God in person, Master Farad Muhammad, if we deposit the spirit, the right food, physical food, the right environment, the believing community, nobody can contain our children, which is why our children that go to public school are always in trouble. And they cannot really articulate why. They don't know why they're always on red and yellow and in trouble and suspension. That's because, listen, my son is very innocent. He's loving. Everybody loves Ali. I'm telling you. But let me tell you what Ali said emphatically. Naja was talking to a little Caucasian little brother, and it was, just children being innocent. And Naja said, "Oh, you're my best friend." Ali said, "He is not your best friend. He is a devil." Ooh, for Father God, he's on the playground, Father God. And I just said, "Well, I can't take it back to words because we did teach them the Caucasians down and everything." Okay, so now I had to go back into my science lab real quick. How I'm going to do this, Ali? Caucasian people come from people that really hurt us very deeply. But this little child on the playground, we're going to play with him. When we get home, we're going to explain some more. When we got back in the car, he goes, "Mom, are you afraid?" My son is 6 years old. So I said, you know what? We got to have our own communities because as a scientist, they're raising me. They keep me in the lab. So I want to bear witness to what she's saying about how to give birth to a God, and it's mental, physical, and spiritual.
That's right.
Great.
Praise be to God.
Sister Mariam?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
There's a couple of things that I thought of as my sisters were speaking their knowledge and wisdom and understanding of this topic. One thing, the first thing I would say is to rear is to raise. So it's not two separate things. When you're rearing a child, you are raising the child. And if you're raising the child correctly, the child is rising where it's supposed to in an upright position. Yes, it is mental. Absolutely. How to give birth to a God starts in the mind, and then it goes to the womb. Now, it starts in the womb of the mind, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us on how to give birth to a God, and goes into explaining the laboratory in our minds and in our wombs. Now, we have to be able to dissect and break that down because mentally, if I'm not where I'm supposed to be, does that mean I cannot give birth to a God? So when the minister breaks down the science that we are all God, in that understanding, now you have to go into the study of if I was not in my right mind and I gave birth to a black child, how do I now nurture that child? How do I rear that child to rise into the God that's in that child? So us having the proper mindset at first in the beginning is key. But like the minister teaches us, we're all married, whether or not you're a virgin or not. You still have virtue. You still, when we come into the truth, we heal. Our
That's right.
brains are, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, our minds are created to function 100% right.
That's right.
He didn't say if the mother's mind was not right, the brain wouldn't be created correctly. That's not what he said.
Right.
Regardless, that child's brain is going to be created to function 100% correctly. So us as parents, as mothers, when we're carrying that child that Allah is constructing in our womb and we become the co-creator, whether we realize it or not, we have to be mindful of where is my mind because my thoughts now go on the child's thoughts. So I can interfere with the process while the child's brain is being constructed and created to function 100% correctly. It still has the ability to function 100% correctly. But if my immature or ignorant thoughts go on the child, now we need the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm speaking on the terms of our people who don't have the teaching. So now how do you come into Islam, the teachings, but you come into Islam and come into your godhood? So when we begin to explain it, we have to be careful because we have to make sure, as the Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan teaches us, that when you teach on every level of understanding so that those who were not born in Islam can still understand, okay, look, I'm reading this beautiful book on how to give birth to a God, but I already have children.
Right.
So now what do I do? How do I nurture my children into that which my sister is telling me I bore from my womb, whether I was mindful of it or not? So I'm in listening because I'm trying to like put this in the proper order because things that they were saying I thought were just absolutely phenomenal. What my sisters were saying and how they were commenting was just, it was off the chain. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I just want to make sure that for our listening audiences who may not be Muslim or who were not in Islam when they gave birth to their children, understand that yes, you too did give birth to a God. And in the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, it teaches you how to now nurture that child and how do I teach my girls how to break the cycle of us now carrying children in our wombs and with the mindset, with the eating factor, with the all of the components that comes into it. How do I break the cycle to teach my girls now to do what I did not do? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am. And yes, go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
As Sister Marianne was speaking, it made me to think about our duty as MGT in a community with our sisters because our class is a womb too. And our class, as co-creators, we would help our sisters in a community. So when they give birth to children and are looking for guidance, we are right there, prepared and ready to co-create right along with her, to guide her and her children into the kingdom of God. When we also use the word, when people say to us, those of us who are Muslim, who are registered members, well, what do you mean by God? Well, it's written in the word that we all agree that it says, ye are gods, children of the Most High God. And so it doesn't separate us. It doesn't make us better than anyone else. We are striving to be what God has created us to be. And it is our duty, those of us who are registered members of the Nation of Islam, for us to continue to work in our laboratory so that we could help our sisters in the community when they are prepared and ready for us to assist them.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
And definitely some great points. But I want to get into like the essence, and we spoke about the science. And one of the things that the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan spoke about was our former oppressors did not want to teach us the science of mating. So before we give birth, let's talk about the essence of the science of mating and why is it so very important, especially in this day and age, who you choose as your mate and who you choose to have children with, rather than just letting it happen haphazardly or absolutely with no planning involved. So with science, we're talking about a formula. So I'm gonna ask all three of you, what is the formula, or what should be the science before we bring life into this world, or even talk about rearing children or giving birth to a god? So I'll start with you, Sister Fudia.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. And, brother, let me, before I just answer that real quick, let me say that the beauty, I believe, of this particular book is, as Sister Mariam was sharing, is that there are women who already have children. So there is a scope here. And so if you look at the 6 sections that the book is broken down into, the first section is what you just mentioned, brother, preparation before conception. That's the first section. And then there's during pregnancy, of course, and then labor and delivery. The next section is on breastfeeding. And then after that, you have the largest section, which is rearing the child of God. So your children are already here. So wherever you at, you can get in on this book. And the last part is on child spacing. And so let me say that first, but as the sister just beautifully quoted, and that's what the title of the book says in Psalms 82:6, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. And so when you listen to what the minister is saying, and I also put in there a quote from Brother Jabril, but of course there are levels to that. We are all born gods. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, every time you see a black man or a black woman, you are looking at God. And so we know that our essence is God. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to build that essence, which is that potential, into its full manifestation, but it does start with preparation before conception. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's so deep. When you talk about the science, brother, that you were just talking about, he goes into the very act of procreation. And of course, before we get there, we got to make sure that in the book, courtship is dealt with and how to properly court and come together. And when we do that, that's the foundation. We know that marriage is the foundation of family, and family is the foundation of nation. But when we court properly, when we just follow what the Envoy Elijah Muhammad gave us, and we enter the courtship process properly. Courtship is not dating, and it's also doesn't mean you're going to marry that person, but you're really taking them to court and you're dissecting them, and they're dissecting you, and you're making sure that you bring forth all of the evidence, all of the information before your courting partner, and you're trying to see if you're compatible. You might not be, but the courtship process is designed that if you are not compatible, both of you go your own way, and everyone's reputation and integrity is intact, because there's no touching or no intimacy. And so we court properly, we get together, we get married, let me say right, but we get married. But the minister even broke down the act of procreation. And he even said, and this is for those who, because the minister said, if you have not had children yet, consider yourself blessed. That's a blessing, because you can prepare when others didn't get a chance to prepare. So if we want each generation to be stronger than each generation coming behind us to be stronger than the present generation, we got to give them this information so they can prepare. They can have the opportunity to prepare. And he broke down how even during the act of procreation, that's done at dawn, while the sun is rising and you are rested from a night of sleep. So he goes into the science of all of these things. And so that's the very beginning. But I'll just close on this note, because I feel what Sister Mariam is saying, the blessing in these teachings is that the minister said rebellion is a blessing. So when we know what may have been done that was not correct, and while we're born with certain inclinations and certain leanings that may not be righteous, so to speak, when we know that, we also have a teaching that lets us know that we also have free will, and we can rebel against our very inclinations and our very nature, just like the minister teaches us that he did. And so we know his history when his mother was carrying him, and he was able to rebel against that and be the person that he was today. And I'm talking about her wanting to abort him and trying, I should say, to abort him 3 times. And so what I want to say is, no matter what the condition that you're presently in, the beauty in these teachings is that we can reverse all of that. But we have to know what was done in the womb, and we have to understand why we're born with certain inclinations, so we can reverse that and more properly and more better reflect God.
Praise be to us. Sister Amina, same question. The science of mating.
As I was listening to Sister Fadia speak, Sister Mariam speak, I thought about work times force is distance, correct?
Right.
If that's the truth, then the mate that you choose, I'm going to say this for men and women, if you don't have that formula, you're not going anywhere. If you don't have a worker and somebody who has some level of force, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to have anything. You're talking about people who don't desire a thing. When you're looking for the potential mate to be able to give birth to a kingdom, children that are purposed and purposeful and have planned on doing something. You want to be able to marry someone who is in that line, not necessarily in that work or in that line of work or even doing anything, but they have a desire. Because sparks, when there was Boy Scouts, you put two little sticks together and you can spark a fire. So it doesn't mean, like I remember my husband and I, we came from very, very humble beginnings. But I know because, like Sister Fadil was talking about, this womb, the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for us, staying in our classes, this training, the level of training that we've received, I want to encourage anybody who has not been to a mosque, who has not engaged in this, who may have not been to class lately and needed, may need this spark. Come to the training. It's the training that changes lives. And we're not talking about people being the teacher, but the womb of the classroom is teaching. I've been witness to it. Just being in the environment where there is work and force, we go in places. I've been witness to it for myself. Going to class, just going to class, I learn something every single time. It makes me a better person. I'm able to emulate that to my children, and my children are able to repeat that back to me. So it's really important to marry someone who you intend on seeing a future with. It's important that if you're weak in an area, you have a mate that's strong in that area. Right. And so it's really important for two individuals, be it they in the members of the Nation of Islam or two members from the community or whether they in church, it doesn't matter. But you want two people who really do have a sense of where they're going, what they want to do, and they really should be following a set guidelines or principles in their faith. And because the word even says, do not be unequally yoked. Because it's difficult to begin to say that one parent doesn't celebrate Christmas and the other does. One parent decides that, listen, I really don't care to do anything other than what I'm doing right now. And the other person has drive. What happens is going to be really difficult. It's going to be a lot of chaos, especially when they begin to have a family. So I just want to be honest that those of us, whether we're in the nation or in the community, the unequally yoked is real.
Yes, ma'am. And that's a good point. Sister Miriam, that's going to get your point on that because sisters are speaking definitely on that when we say the science of mating, why maybe the children are suffering the way we do. So, from your assessment, the science of mating, choosing the right person, it doesn't have to necessarily be the male. It could be the female. It could be toxicity on both ends. So, how important is that to understand choosing the right person before even thinking about having children?
What I usually let my biology students know in regards to, we talk about the science of mating and understanding that what that means is it's the science of reproduction. So we have to understand that genetically, there are certain things that go together and there's certain things that do not go together. Yeah. My sister mentioned the courtship process. Absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. And we have to understand to ask the right questions. That's right. Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan said, courting, you're taking him to court. You're taking her to court. Meet the family. Pay attention to the family. Ask critical questions. We don't ask medical questions. You need to know. I remember some years ago, there was a brother and sister who got married. They had a child and was devastated. Their child had sickle cell. Well, you didn't ask the questions. Both of you all knew you carried the trait, but you didn't ask. You didn't reveal that information. That's critical information. So when we sit down at the table, it's not just what's your credit score. It's not just do you pay charity. It's to get into all sciences. And again, the science of mating is the science of reproduction. Two people who are paired together to produce what we need to grow our nation properly. It's not just, he looks good or she looks good. Yeah, but you all may get together and you're not reproducing what Allah produced in the beginning. So we have to now put on our grown folks mindset. Not the childish little girl. And I mean, it's nothing wrong with having the crush and, I like him. That's fine. But in the
The moment of now we're getting serious. I need to now think, is this the person I want to marry? Have I gotten past my teenage years and my teenage mindset where now I've matured into the woman and or girl that God desires for me to be so I can be responsible with the teaching he came himself to give to me that I actually apply to my life, and I'm using this application properly to reproduce what he produced in the beginning and after he perfected himself. So we have to study. We have to study, where's the God now in present time? Where is he in his development? So as I'm doing the science of mating, as I'm doing the science of becoming a believer, of becoming a Muslim, of becoming that which submits him or herself to do the will of God, I have to understand this is a process. I too am reproducing myself.
That's right.
So the science of mating starts with self, then others. It goes right into Message to the Black Man. It all goes down to doing for self. You have to take care of yourself to put yourself in a position now to be able to produce that product. And the Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan said, no woman wants an unproductive man. You cannot fall in love with a physical shell that's not producing anything. Sister Amina just talked about motion. Absolutely. I was just listening to the minister's lecture yesterday on the knowledge of time and how the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad explained that time defined is motion. You have to understand that this man and or woman that you're looking at start multiplying their movement. Are you having any movement? Because this seed that's going to be developing in you is going to have movement. Can you match it? Can you complement what Allah is going to do in your womb? That's understanding what the science is, now breaking it down on a DNA level. Because the Caucasian does it every single day. And when you go to other countries around the world, they're doing it. This is how they keep their wealth in a certain line of lineage. This is how they produce stronger children. This is how they're building their army. These are things we have to look at because we weren't taught this. We were robbed of this knowledge, but now it has been brought back to us. We just need to apply what we're actually learning instead of just saying, I know, or I heard the minister say this, or I know. No, apply it to your life. Once you apply it, we'll start seeing the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words manifested into a reality. Because we all understand the laws of attraction. What I put out, I'm going to get back. So now you have to understand, what are you putting out? Are you putting out work, as my sister said? Absolutely. Is that what you're doing? So that we produce a seed that comes out that's ready to do the work. The Honorable Ms. Luz Farrakhan said about my grandmother, Sister Bernstein, who was the secretary to Master Father Muhammad, he said he wanted all the registered MGT to know that when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad asked for a secretary, he stood up immediately, only being registered for a few days. He wanted the sisters to know that when she came in, she immediately went to work for her nation and never stopped. That's something we have to understand. So my sister hit on it when she said work. We have to do the work because then we'll replicate that in our wombs and our seeds will come out automatically doing the work.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Pooty, it's like you had something you wanted to comment, sister.
Oh, I was over here just bearing witness, brother. But if you have a question, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Oh, praise be to Allah. And I definitely want to make this conversation friendly to those who may not be in the nation. And matter of fact, I've had Sister Pooty answer this question. For those who don't know, what is an MGT and how can the teachings of the MGT be beneficial to our young sisters in the community?
So the women in the Nation of Islam, the way I opened up is saying that we are declaring boldly to the world that God came. When you look at the Black woman and the condition of the Black woman today, and then you reflect that, or you transpose that on the sisters in the Nation of Islam, we are the best witness that God came. Because we see the condition of our women today. We see that they are quick to unclothe themselves, or allow themselves to be disrespected or treated in a certain manner. And we can also see that we can quickly access the things of the world by allowing the enemy to clothe us and to guide us. And so when I see the sisters in the Nation of Islam, and when we walk around and we have our headpieces on, that is a sign, an indication that we were not taught and trained by the enemy. So we are a reflection that God came. The women in the Nation of Islam, the best way I can explain it is that we are God's women. And so when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad before him said, a nation can rise no higher than its woman, it's important for us to teach our sisters that we are a direct reflection of our nation. And so the higher we rise, and we all say it's nation time. If it's nation time, then it's time for the women to rise, because the nation can rise no higher than its woman. And so there is no better teacher, in my opinion. And it's really a shame when we allow the enemy to get away with cheap shots, really, and call the minister a misogynist and whatnot, because you have not heard anyone lift and elevate and respect the Black woman as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has. So I would say to my sisters who are out there, the one thing about the Black woman, we have no resistance to God. So we are attracted to God. And so our sisters, when you see us, you're seeing a divine or a reflection of God himself. And so I ask our sisters in the community, if you want respect, and we know that you do, you want to be protected, you want to be reverenced, you want to be honored, you want to be treated like a queen, as all of our people are calling themselves now, you have to come to God, and you have to find men who reflect God. The brothers in the nation are being taught and trained. They have a class that's separate from our class. The classes are private, but they are designed to complement each other perfectly. And our women are looking for God. They see our brothers and they are attracted to our brothers, but it's not them, it's the God that's in them. And the Black woman can't resist God. And so we need to, all I'll say is that this is where you will find everything that you've been looking for in a man, and everything that you've been looking for in a community, in a sisterhood, in a nation. And so that's what the MGT and GCC provides. It grows us up into becoming reflections of God.
Praise be to Allah. That was very beautifully articulated, dear sister. And I want to challenge my sisters to the next phase. We talk about the signs of mating. Now I want to talk about the womb. One of the things that the minister said was the womb, a woman's womb, is God's workshop. So what comes to mind? I'm going to Sister Amina with this one. What comes to mind when you hear the minister say, or the terminology, the womb is God's workshop? Sister Amina?
I learned from analogy, so I also like to teach from analogy so the person can really see what we're talking about. When you think about a workshop, you're thinking about an area that an individual, a master, an expert, can work a particular craft. Now, the room has to be organized in such a way. The room has to be, if it's a blacksmith, if it's a wood shop, like, someone who's working in a workshop. Even when you conduct a workshop, your chairs are in a certain area. You already got your water out. You got the papers. It's like a organized environment. So if the womb, and it is God's workshop, we have to be prepared and preparing ourselves for God to work on and in us. Not that, that's why in the Nation of Islam, our class is called the Muslim Girls in Training. It doesn't matter if you're 92 years old or if you're 7 years old. It wouldn't matter because we're all God's little girls, right? It says you can't reach him unless you come as a child, right? So if I think I'm grown and I already know, like I can't be his workshop. It's just too much clutter in it. He can't do nothing with me because I'm thinking I'm already formed. So in that way, for me, I will give it a view. What that means to me is I always make myself vulnerable, available, open to receive in his work, however it may come. And in the Nation of Islam, we are taught that God works through men and women. So if I pray a prayer to God and I'm asking him to change me and I'm asking him to help me, well, me being the workshop of God, he may come to Sister Fudia. Now I can't reject her because I said, well, I'm looking for God to come. Well, God gave Sister Fudia a message to give to me. So if I'm open to him to be be the workshop of what he's going to do for me in my life and how I'm going to be extension of his to others, then I got to be open, available, ready for him to do his work.
Sister Mariam, the importance in the womb, and where I'm going with this is talk about the science. I want us to break down the formula because we started talking about the mating, the science of mating, and the womb. And the woman's womb is a phenomenal masterpiece. But only if women understood that masterpiece, that maybe we will have less abortions or less women or young girls making the mistake of having the wrong person disrespect that womb. So, Sister Mariam, when I say the womb is God's workshop, what comes to mind to you as a woman?
God, so much stuff went through my mind.
Yes.
Because I have to agree with the analogy. Of course, what an actual workshop is, and I'm thinking of how we are the co-creator. Once conception has taken place, it's just the woman and God going to work. Your mindset has to be right. Your thoughts go on that child. You have to eat the right foods. It's the same way when you look at an animal that's preparing its nest because it knows that the baby is coming. You're fashioning that child. I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had her image in my mind from the texture of her hair all the way down to what her toes would look like. That's how my daughter looks today. That's how powerful our minds are. We have to understand that our minds, manifestation is real. We manifest our realities, whether you like your reality or not. You're the one who manifested that reality. So when you think about the unborn child that's growing in your womb, you got to go to work. If you have an ailment, you got to go to work to make sure that child does not express that ailment that you may have. If you know diabetes runs in your family, you can't get spooky. You got to understand the power that you have to break cycles, the power that you had to rid diseases, the power that we manifest to produce that which God desires. So you going to work, a work stop. It's motion. It's the exact same thing we've been saying. You have to be able to understand in that moment you're producing. So am I going to be productive or am I going to be unproductive? Am I going to produce a child that's going to be lazy and not want to do anything, or am I going to produce a child that's going to get up and do the work? It's all in the mindset and what you study. I've studied myself, women who are pregnant in school and their children, when their children are born, and how they specialize in certain subjects. And I remember I was in school with my firstborn child, and to this day, people can't understand how quickly he can do math without a calculator because that's something I was doing when I was carrying him. I reproduced that, even though I can't do that to this day. Promise you, I can't do it. But I perfected, with Allah's permission, a certain side of me because of my desire, which fed my will, which complemented God's will, that produced a child that now will be able to master a certain area. Now imagine if we multiplied that and did that in various areas. And now that child has produced master in various areas because your desire fed your will that complemented God's will. So now that child is born being a master. It's already been done because we have the master. So once it's been done, all we have to do is just study the master and now just reproduce, replicate the same science that was put in him, we can put in our children. That's what the workshop is all about. We creating gods.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. And just on that phase, dear sister, then Sister Fudia, your book has some things dealing with diet and different various things that we feed, because diet doesn't necessarily mean physically food, but the things you watch on television, the music, even being careful with the vaccinations that they force
Yeah.
a lot of our sisters into taking or scaring them into it. So how
That's right.
important is the diet of the mind, the diet of things that we hear, and especially also the food that we eat has a lot to do with disrupting that workshop. The food here?
Yes, sir. Well, we are taught that there's no disconnection between the mind and the physical body. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in How to Eat to Live, he said that you could be following all of this. Some people are writing him, and he said that they're telling him, I'm doing everything, that you said to do, but I'm not having the results that you said that I would have. And so he said that well, look at your thinking, look at your thoughts. And so we can't eat good food and not have good thoughts and think we're going to have a good result. The mind, thought, student minister Ava said, is liquid. This is not some abstract thing in the air. Thought is a material thing. It is actual liquid. It's actual chemistry. And so the thoughts that we have are going to affect us on a cellular level. They're going to affect the blood. They're going to affect the sister talked about the toes. They're going to affect the pinky toe all the way to the cells of the brain just from those thoughts. And if those thoughts are continuous and they're intense, that's really when we have to be careful and make sure that those are righteous, good thoughts, and that we're thinking on the highest level, which is on the God level. And so the physical food that we take in, of course, we have to find the best. We have to get the best that is out there. We know that even the best food has some toxins in it, but we have to get the best that's out there, and we need to couple that with the right thoughts. And we need to be reading the right things while we're pregnant. And you mentioned everything. When we talk about when the woman is pregnant, the minister talked about the analogy of bun in the oven. And when you're baking a cake or you're making some bread, you gotta be careful what you do around it, because if you open it too quick or whatnot, it's gonna fall and sometimes beyond repair. And so the woman is like that. We have to be careful with the environment she's in. He said, don't go to funerals when you're pregnant, because you shouldn't be around death when you're trying to bring life forth. And so all of those, everything is important. So if you're trying to do this on the highest level, you got to be careful with what you're watching on television, what you're listening to on the radio, the people you allow yourself to be around when you're in that delicate state, because again, you're making brain. And like the sister said, even the physical characteristics, we can do that. The minister said his mother wanted a girl. And so he was born with very soft features, very feminine-like features. So that's the power of the woman. There is no other time or no better time when you really know God is with you than when a woman is pregnant, because she's not calling the heart into existence or saying put the liver here and put the kidney here. God is doing that. So God is with you, but you're his co-creator. So the way you co-create and you assist God, you're God's assistant. The way you do that is by thinking about what you ingest, what you eat, what you think, the places that you go to, the people who you allow to surround you. So we just have to be more intentional when we're pregnant. The minister said anyone can allow a baby to be made, but how many of us know how to make a baby? So this is the science that the minister is giving us, how to actually work with God side by side, and give birth to what we desire, in our desires and our thoughts, but make them line up with what God wants for us.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Amina, Sister brought up some great points, and I know that a lot of things in our society, from the things that, especially on television and in music we hear, and the different things that are very traumatic to a woman if she's bearing a child. How important is it in the diet aspect of the foods we eat, the music we listen to, and the television programs we watch? How important is it for us just to be mindful of that when bearing a child, Sister Amina?
Well, I'll say, based on our experience, what we have been taught, as a man thinketh, so is he. I know that we were told that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that he was told that the devil will one day be invited. We will invite him into our homes. Well, you know what? That television, these smart TVs that stay on, the actual television in and of itself, that we are entertaining the devil. I'm going to say that sometimes we like to occasionally venture off from the hard work that we do and the course that we are on. That occasionally we like to delve into. I've heard people delve into the Love and Hip Hop or Empire or Housewife of Atlanta. But if we think about the debauchery, the foolishness, the just the rogueness of the behavior, the woman takes on that mentality, that fear, that vulgarity, that violence, the sexual deviation that goes into her mind. And it's like when our parents used to watch soaps, right? Isn't soap used to wash? Okay. Why did he call them soap operas? Opera is a theater. It's a form of music, and people with melody. You know how people are mesmerized by music? So we're talking about the washing of her mind. And so when we think about the word, it says, put on a new man. Let this mind of God be in you as it was in Christ Jesus. So we have to be mindful of the music that we listen to, as Sister was saying about the funeral. We got to be mindful of the environment that we place ourselves in, because when you're talking about giving birth to a God, and not only the women who are pregnant physically, but we're talking about, again, the ones who are yet blessed because they don't have them, and those of us who are saying that we are pregnant with God's thought. He has impregnated us to save our people. So we have to be mindful that we're not soaked and washed to sleep, that we don't give birth to what God has been in the workshop working in saving our people. Those of us who are in the Nation of Islam, when we wrote our letter to the Savior, the only reason why we're here, and for those of us who didn't, we had to repeat our lessons, right? The mission of our Nation of Islam is to resurrect the dead. Well, you can't resurrect if you're part of the dead. You can't resurrect if you're sitting down amongst the dead. You're not teaching, but you fellowshipping with. You can't resurrect the dead if you're watching in entertainment with the dead. So those of us who are pregnant with God's word and pregnant with the seed to go after our people, and pregnant physically with the life germ that we are our future, we cannot sit around and be lulled to sleep by this foolishness.
Sister Miriam, same question, Sister. I'm going to add on to this question for you, Sister Miriam. By us not being responsible on both ends, whether it be the father or the irresponsibility of maybe the mother who's carrying a child with certain toxicities, are we failing our children as a community?
Yes. Again, we talked about the thoughts, but to add on to that would be the energy. Energy is real. You can pick up on how someone around you is feeling. You can pick up on other people's emotions, whether you recognize you can or not. Some of us walk away and trying to figure out why do I feel so heavy? Because you was just around someone who felt that way. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us when a woman is pregnant, she actually should be the same way as Mary was. Mary was well protected. She was hidden away from everyone else in the world, their imperfections, their impurities, their negative energy, their thoughts that would have done her harm because of their immaturity and lack of understanding. We live in a world of immaturity and lack of understanding, and that's not striving to replicate or be an example of what God said it's supposed to be. So, absolutely, we are failing our children. We're failing we're failing ourselves, not just our children. Um, so there was something that was said also in regard that I thought was absolutely phenomenal in regards to what we're feeding our babies physically and spiritually. It's a science to what type of food you should eat. We can break down spiritually, but I think the physical portion is something that we overlook too often. Even when a woman is pregnant and you go to the doctor and they tell you how far along you are and all of these things, but they really don't break down the nutrients of what you should be eating when you're pregnant. When I was pregnant with my first son, and I have a total of 5 children, I cheated. I got them in 4 pregnancies because I have a set of twins. But every pregnancy, I did the exact same thing. I started with my firstborn. When I was pregnant with him, I went and researched what is developing in the child at what point in time. So I knew the type of foods that will complement how the child was growing inside of me. I teach my biology students the exact same science because if we know the brain is first, then those are the type of foods you want to eat. What's going to feed the brain? What type of nutrients do I need? And what do I need to stay away from? Because what would harm the brain in growing like that? This is the reason why they give children 42 vaccines in the United States of America in the first 2 years of life, because the brain and the immune system is rapidly growing and they know they can tear it down in that 2 year time frame. Well, now they have a vaccine they're giving to pregnant women because now they understand that the brain starts. If they can get the brain while it's starting, they really can do the damage that they want to do. So we have to know how do I counteract that. First of all, don't get the vaccine. But secondly, eat the foods that's going to grow the mind to be strong. When the kidneys are growing, you eat the foods that's going to grow the kidneys. You eat the food that's going to help the heart beat even stronger. It's a muscle. So these are things that we have to study when we're pregnant and stop thinking, I'm eating for 2 people. No, you're eating for the science of the development of a new life. But one meal is best. When women find out that they're pregnant, they go and they just start eating. What are you doing? By the time you give birth to the child, you done gained 60 pounds. That tells you that food didn't go to the child. It went to you. You don't eat for 2. You actually, if women study themselves properly, your appetite doesn't even build until you're 7 months pregnant. Why? Because that's when the baby's going to rapidly grow in its size. Prior to that, what's growing are the organs in the child. So the child is not even a pound. At 5, you're 5 months pregnant, 6 months pregnant, and you're eating as if the child is already 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds. No, you still have 3, 4 months to go. So unless you're carrying multiples, I think I probably got hungry with the twins, and I was about 4 months through it now. But still understanding the science. The woman carries everything that the baby needs when you're pregnant. That baby's going to pull from you. So you have to make sure you're getting your vitamin D and your calcium and everything that's going to build that baby properly at the proper time. Timing is key during pregnancy. So now we're looking at the science of developing physically a strong human being. Then we can look at the same time, simultaneously, I'm also spiritually developing a strong, God fearing human being. So, what am I feeding myself spiritually? No matter what religion you belong to, I don't care if you're reading from the Bible, the Holy Quran, feed on God's word. Listen to your pastor, your minister, whatever it is, because your body, if you hear something wrong, that child will let you know you just heard something wrong. You have to be in tune with your body. I would feel my baby move in certain ways when I was around areas that was negative, when I was around areas that complemented the growth of my child. I studied the movement of my babies when they were in me, and I paid attention to the energy that flowed through me because either it was a warning signal or a complimenting signal. We have to get more in tune with who we are. So you have to build your relationship with God before you try to reproduce what He has already produced.
Praise be. That was beautifully put, dear sister. And I'm learning a lot, and I'm pretty sure our listening audience is learning a lot. Well, I want to end off with a closing statement. My listening panel was definitely a great show, and I want to promote our sister's book. If you watch it on Facebook, this is the book to get right here. I'm going to check out the way. This sister, she put the work in it, and everything that you heard tonight, a lot of it came from this book. A lot of it came from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the teachings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So please patronize our sister. And sister, in your closing statement, sister, please let the audience know where they can find your book. And then you can place the link on my page also, or website. You want to get your stuff out there, sister. We want to support you. Once again, I'm pretty sure you built a nice fan club already, sister. So with your closing statement, sister, make sure that you put the information out so they have it. Sister Fudia?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you having me on again. It's a wonderful conversation. Always when you converse, especially with the sisters in the nation, you're going to learn so much. And I pray I know that's what happened with me personally, and I pray that that's what's happening with those who are listening. I will close on this. I just want to say this to everyone, that such a serious topic like this, you really can't play with it. And I just want everyone to know that this book is rooted in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's what makes it different from any other parenting or child rearing book out there. I was careful to extract from the minister's words, the lessons that he's given, the Holy Quran, the Bible, the supreme wisdom, natural universal law, science, nature, all of that. And we even quoted from a lot of the premier students in the ministry, Student Minister Nuri, Student Minister Ava, Mother Tanetta, Brother Jabril, Brother Abdullah, and many others. And my publishers indexed the book for me, and I saw that Farrakhan, the name Farrakhan, showed up 161 times. And that's when I had the minister's name, because a lot of times we just say the minister. But what that means is that almost every other page or every 3 pages, you're going to see the name Farrakhan. So this is based on the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the last thing that I'll state is the reason we're going forward with this, and I'm so grateful to be able to go on the Southwest Region book tour, is because of these words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The minister said, "It is sad that we can go to colleges and universities to receive degrees that tell us that we are qualified to work in our various fields of endeavor, but the most important endeavor, which is the building of human life through the skill of parenting, does not seem to matter in our quest for the acquisition of knowledge." And so we want to make sure that we put parenting and child rearing on the forefront. It is the most important thing we will ever do, is to rear our children in a God-centered manner. So I thank you, brother, for this time. And again, you can get the book. You can go directly to Amazon, or you can go to my new website, givebirthtoagod.com. And if you go to the store tab, there's a direct link where you can get the book there. So again, that's givebirthtoagod.com. And I thank you again, brother. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I look forward to coming back sometime soon.
Oh, you will definitely get the invite because, I've learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure there's more in depth, so we maybe get a part 2 to it. So look forward to actually reaching out to your sister for some further invites. And as a matter of fact, another sister, she asked me that if you would like to be part of a book club But we'll touch bases offline with that. And she has another book. You a guest on our program next Saturday coming up. So I'll definitely plug you in with our sister.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Praise be to Allah.
Yes, man. Sister Amina, closing comments, dear sister.
I am so grateful to have been on this show today and to listen to both of my sisters. And even the questions that you asked, for me, was very thought-provoking and will make me go back and continue to study to even better myself. So much today, and definitely have been enlightened. I appreciate the both of you for sharing your wisdom. May Allah bless you. Thank you for this forum. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Sister Miriam, this has been also your spirit is great as well, sister. What is your closing statement?
Praise be to Allah. I thank you for having me on the show along with my sisters. It was a very, very enjoyable time. I too learned a lot. I love when we come together and, oh my God, like minds, and we share what we've learned from the teachings, how Allah has blessed us to grow. And I definitely want to get the information on my sister's book as well, because I do not have it, and I love to put it up on my website because I'm always promoting us, and I'm actually creating a page on my website to promote Black authors and Black female authors. So please make sure I get the information as well, because we have to help each other grow. This is how we grow as a nation, our economic blueprint. Again, I thank you. It was definitely a pleasure, and I'm very humbled that we would even ask your sisters to be on the show. So thank you again.
Praise be to Allah. And I want to say first and foremost, thank you, sisters, and thank you, sister, for such a wonderful book. And I want to give a special shout out to my beautiful wife that she ordered this book. And we talk about science. It was her mathematics that this show actually came into place, because she ordered the book. Her excitement alone when she was reading it, when I come home, she'd be so happy with the chapters she read. And I said, this could be a good show right there. So I want to thank my wife for actually making this happen. She's doing a phenomenal job with our twins, and I heard them upstairs having a good time. So I guess I haven't been properly relieved of my posters of yet. So, but I want to thank you for being on and for the information that you've given, and I pray to Allah that the information that you did give help those to see things differently. Those who may be having children or thinking about having children, to be mindful of how special their womb is, because their womb is God's workshop, and you don't allow anybody, particularly a man who is not in his proper place mentally or spiritually, disrupt or disrespect the womb that God has given you. Respect that, and I think that we'll have less heartache, less pain out there, and we'll start developing the little guys that we need to make our society successful. Because if you notice in the school system, they are changing the curriculum so much. They're going after the young children. They haven't given a chance to even develop, but yet they're going after them subliminally in storybooks, and they got the parents so brain dead that they just going with the flow of it, because they feel because it's in the educational system, it must be the right thing. Let's make sure that we start looking into homeschooling, or even supporting our schools that have our best interest for our children in mind. So that's one of the ways that we can create young gods that we necessarily need in this world. And as the sister said earlier, we're not talking about the supreme being. Study your Bible, and you can understand what does it mean to be a young God. Force and power is very important. Force and power in the righteous way can do a lot of work for us. So with that being said, thank you, beloved sisters. Thank you for those who took the time to listen. And may Allah continue to bless you. I look forward to the next program. Please be safe. If anything that I can do for you as your brother, please reach out. So with that being said.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam.